I'm gonna change this into this. All right, welcome back to a new video. As you can see, this is my budget cinema rig, and we're gonna go over what is actually included in here. Nothing fancy, and when I say budget, I do mean budget. Although I didn't cheap out on some stuff. It is actually not a bad little price little unit. For what it is, it does the trick pretty well. So I'm not going to disassemble it all because it took me forever to take it apart and put it all back together again. But let's get on with what is included in this. This being my cinema rig, I always wanted to have sort of a nicer looking rig, because before it was just my camera and I had my 18-105 lens. Picture wise, always good. Never had any issues with that. However, you know, I wanted to be able to make this look a little nicer, you know, if I ever wanted to go on some more professional-ish shoots. Thought it would be good to finally rig out my camera, and then that way, depending on what kind of camera system I end up going with, a lot of this stuff can be just transferred over to that new camera body. So I do, as you know, I am pretty invested in the Sony ecosystem. Right now, we're being filmed on my Sony a7 with the 50mm 1.8 on it. Finally got the full frame lens, which is nice. And this, the heart of it, is the Sony a6100. And, you know, it doesn't have some super features such as log or anything like that. But what it does have is a custom profile that I have, which is log-ish. It does have that flatter profile, so I can color correct it a little bit more. The outside of it, and I just got this, and I totally get the hype now. This is the small rig cage. It's the 3146 cage, I believe. And I got the one with the silicone hand on it, and even just holding the rig with just the one handle here. I don't have the smallest or the biggest hands, but what it does to the a6100 body is fantastic. It does make it a little bit heavier, and that's okay. But just the grip on it is so much better. I guess continuing on the body portion, I have the Nisi rig or Nicey rig rail system, which has the small rig 15mm rails. I think I got the 20cm carbon fiber rails. On the bottom of that, I have the Manfrotto Arca Swiss plate to attach to the tripod that currently filming on. On the top here, so that is just a newer f100. I think it's a 5 or 7 inch monitor. I got it used off Facebook Marketplace, and the plan of rigging out this system, I wanted to have at least some sort of a monitor on the camera. And quite honestly, like, I'm not recording directly to a monitor yet. So I wanted to be able to kind of familiarize myself with having an on-body monitor just to have this external screen. And you know, it's actually helped quite a bit, because then I can focus better. There's some other modes, I don't really use too much of it, but honestly it was just so that I had a little bit better of a screen to look at rather than the tiny little screen on the monitor. Now that attaches to my body with the Condor Blue Gerald Undone HDMI cable. I got the right angle HDMI cable, and that goes right into the monitor. On the back, I have the small rig V-mount battery plate. There's nothing special about this one. It's just a V-mount battery plate that attaches to the rails. And then on the back of that, I have this new, newer battery. I don't know the exact model. I forget what it is. It's the newer 99 watt hour battery. It's actually not a bad battery. It has the D-tap on it, which has the newer, it's a newer FWP50 adapter that goes right into the camera. So that attaches to the D-tap port on the battery. And then it also has a USB-A and USB-C port, and the 12 and 8 volt DC ports on the top here. It does have a little LCD screen. I know it's going to be impossible to see, but it does show the voltage of the battery, and then whatever connections you have connected to this, it'll show how much volts are being pulled from this battery. So it does show the DC 8 volt, 12 volt, USB-A and USB-C, and then just the actual life of the battery itself, which right now is at 88%. And I've used this once already, and I think I had this on, the camera powered on for about 3 hours, three and a half hours, and it's only used about 10 to 12%. And this camera rig is gonna last a long time. I could probably get a full day's worth of shooting, no problem, with this battery alone. So before I had on this, like a USB, or just like a little battery bank, one of those portable battery banks. And I mean, it did the trick, but it looked pretty ghetto. So having it rigged out like this is pretty professional looking. I think it's a lot better looking. And you really wouldn't know that it has an entry-level camera on it. The last piece, which I haven't gone on yet, since this is a Sony E-mount, I'm trying to get more full frame lenses so I can switch between the two cameras. So I'm not using the crop video mode on the Sony A7, but this is the Rokinon 85mm cinema lens. It goes down to T1.5, and again, 85mm at T1.5, you get such silky background blur. It's unreal, and just the image quality difference when I'm using this versus some of my other lenses is a massive difference. And all this stuff I got off Facebook Marketplace. I think the only thing I've actually paid new for was my Sony a6100, and I traded in my Canon M100 for that. Yeah, like all of the small rig stuff was bought off of Amazon. So I think, like, in total, not including the body and the lens, like just getting all of the accessories and stuff, less than like $300. Honestly, I got a really good deal on the battery. I think normally these batteries on Amazon go for like $180. I got it for about $100, brand new, not even opened yet. And then, yeah, like the cage and the all of the, like, the little accessory stuff was all around $100. So, and the monitor I got cheap as well. It was like $100, and you know, now it looks like a pretty decent little cinema rig. Now, I think apart from that, like I said, I didn't actually say this was going to be a fairly quick video, but you know, I just wanted to show what you can put together for a cinema rig. I know there's a lot of videos and people say that gear doesn't matter, or gear does matter. I mean, it does and it doesn't to a point. You know, you can make do with what you have, and then, you know, you can slowly upgrade your gear. And that's essentially what I've done. You know, I started out with the a6100 and the kit lens 4 or 5 years ago, and this thing has recorded so many, you know, vlogs and other sports videos and a couple short films now. And honestly, you probably wouldn't notice too much of a difference between this and some other cameras. I mean, you really have to pixel peep, but honestly, you know, if you've got decent color and really good sound, you're not going to notice much of a difference when it comes to the actual camera gear. But it does help. Don't get me wrong, it does help. As far as lenses go, I have, for this particular camera, now I can use, I've got this Rokinon 85mm. I have the two Sony 50mm 1.8. I have the APS-C version, and I have the full frame version. The full frame lens, the focus on it is a little bit slower. It does look a tad bit nicer on the a6100, but depending on what project I'm doing, and if I want that 50mm focal length, I will, you know, change them out depending on which one I want. I also have a 28mm Konica lens. It's a vintage lens, which I have adapted to E-mount, which I will use on this as well. So the Rokinon and the Konica are both manual focus lenses. And then the rest of them are all autofocus. And then the other lens I have obviously is the Sony 18-105 f4 lens, which 90% of the time is usually on this camera, just because it's nice to have the zoom on it, and the f4 aperture is pretty decent. Apart from that, this is any kind of project that I'm doing. Film wise, this is going with me. There's still a few extra things that I wouldn't mind getting for this. I wouldn't mind getting the cable clips in here just to help not get the cables knocked out easily. And then maybe an extra handle. But apart from that, like, I'm usually pretty good. If I'm doing handheld, I'm going to be holding it like one hand on the bottom, one hand on the side, and quite often I have it attached to my body, so I do have that 3-point stabilization there. But if not, it's usually on here. Yeah, this is cheap budget cinema rig. It's hard to knock. You gotta use what you gotta use. Honestly, like, you don't, like, if you want to go out and create something, you don't need to spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on a Sony a7S III or an FX3 or an FX30 or a cinema camera. Yes, they are nice. Don't get me wrong. I've used a Canon C500. So nice. However, I can get just as good as an image off of this as I can off of a cinema camera. As long as you practice your lighting, which right now isn't the greatest. One of those things that I am going to be working on. Get out there, practice. Just go shoot stuff. Practice your framing, practice your compositions. Once you get that all going, everything will fall into place. And then you can spend the extra money on nicer lenses or a nicer body, a nicer monitor. But apart from that, keep shooting. Have fun. That's all I got to say. This is my budget rig, and I hope you enjoyed. If you do have any specific questions about any of the gear here, this is not a sponsored video. I bought all of this stuff. This is all mine. I wish it was sponsored. Small rig, newer, anybody, Sony, I'm open. I'm open to some collabs. Yeah, go out, shoot, have fun. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one. Ciao.